Hey everyone, this is George Couros. Welcome back to another episode of the Innovator's Mindset Podcast. Last month, for the month-end highlight video, I did something like this. I did just a little video, and I was sitting in my office recording some podcast. I just needed to step outside and kind of catch, some sun, just kind of take a break. And one of the things that I think is really important to me is, what are you feeding your soul with? What are you feeding your mind with? I've really been intentional about what I eat, but I've also been very intentional on the things I actually consume. So each month when you're listening to this podcast, I always try to find some really positive conversations that lift people up. And when I run, it is really interesting to me that if I listen to something that is uplifting, energetic, the run is easier. But when I listen to stuff that is really negative, kind of everything is wrong with the world, everything is very hard to do, it's almost like I'm wearing a weighted vest, and it makes it so much harder. So I'm hoping that every time you listen to this podcast, you have an opportunity to learn. It's an uplifting experience. It actually brings you energy, brings something good to the world. So don't just be thoughtful of the stuff you consume food-wise, but what are the things that you're listening to? How is it lifting you up? So I just wanted to take that moment, because sometimes I just kind of come out here and think. I wanted to consider what I was sharing with you. Sometimes the biggest weight that we add in our life is what we put into our mind. So it can be really freeing when you focus on finding the good in the world, even when it's really hard to do so. But with that, if that didn't help you, I promise you something from my guests will. And have a great week. I hope you enjoy the guests. Because you got to share, your story in this book, what was that writing process for you? Because I know there's a lot of people who listen to this. They're like, yeah, I want to write a book. I want to, go through this. What was that like? Was it like, were you stressed? Like, was it hard? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so I'm like you said earlier, we're kind of harshest to the people we love the most. So I'm super hard on myself. Like I'll give you grace all day, or my kids, or the people I work with, but then when it comes to me, I'm like, no, got to do better, got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
So when I got the offer, and initially, my first thought was like, yeah, I can do something like that. But then I immediately after, I don't even finish the first thought. The next one comes in. No, you can't. Who wants to hear from David Domena,
Right.
STEAM teacher in Southern California? Like teaching for 9 years. What do I know about anything? So I kind of had to work through that imposter syndrome type of stuff, and but the process was pretty seamless. Allison was amazing to work with. She's always available. So I did have questions like, well, what do I do with this? And finally she just told me, get something on paper, get something out there, and we can work with whatever you put together. If it's really bad, I'm going to tell you it's really bad, and if it's really great, I'm going to tell you it's really great. So that kind of pushed me to like stop second guessing myself so much, just sit down, bang something out and submit it. And then I was perfectly okay with you guys coming back being like, we like the title and that's it, start from scratch, dude, and start
Right.
all over
Right.
again. Or I was open to the other way too. Maybe they're gonna love it. Who knows? We'll see.
Mm.
And there's notes. You always got to change some things around. I'm not a professional author by any means, so but everything I got was very constructive, and I was able to build off of that and kind of implement some more like specific stories Allison asked for. Or I would kind of trail off on a story or a tangent, and she like, here, let's cut that off and bring it back. And
Mm.
so it was much more concise than I kind of anticipated.
So like, I'm co-owner of like, not only, obviously Alice and I are like leading on this book, mostly Allison. I want to give her all the credit in the world, because kind of came up with the concepts, and then her and I fleshed everything out. I'm like, hey, now you have to run with the rest of it too. And she's absolutely amazing and just incredible. But one of the things that we talk about all the time, you want the criticism before the book is released, not after. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hear that sucked. If I'm going to hear it sucked, I want to hear it before. And then
Right. Not when it's on the
to
shelf
fix it.
somewhere.
Yeah, but when it's, it feels like, I know it sounds weird. It feels like it's written in, like it's literally written in stone. It might as well, because it's like, it's on a book, that's it. So
Yeah, it's out there.
I think that mentality is really helpful. And, that that openness to that is really, really important.
And I had another group of people that came to say, hey, we really, really, really like your work as a politician, as a person that cares about our district. Let's go ahead and we really like for you to run for Senate. So I did that. I served 4 years. And I can tell you, though, that that experience gave me an opportunity to have a real breadth of knowledge across the state about how truly education informs and impacts every aspect of what we do, right? Everything in any kind of economic development, any kind of like that, the foundation of workforce and the quality of people that we're producing for the workforce is the key driver. But I can tell you that my heart and soul has always been in and will be continuing this new role. I care about kids and I care about teachers, and I know absolutely that the most important thing that we do in the state of Missouri is put the most resource and support around those educators, because they're the ones that make the biggest difference for kids and the kind of learning and the opportunity for us to see them grow.
So and that I really appreciate that you said that. And I would say, like, in my role as a principal working at central office, I would say one of my faults that I've gotten better at over time was really kind of like, hey, I always say we always got to focus on what's best for kids, right? We got to focus on best for kids. And sometimes it would almost be like in a detriment to the adults. Whereas, as I've grown, and this is what I really appreciate what you just said, is like, if you really want to help kids, you have to help the adults. You have to serve the adults and make sure that they have what they need to be successful. And I appreciate that you have that focus in the work that you're coming into. And this was, by the way, when we were talking about doing this, I was like, this is a little bit weird. I'm not gonna lie, right? Because it's like, so like, first of all, do you like each other? Like, this is kind of a weird thing that you're like, one's taking the job and, starting the job over. And full disclosure, and I actually have this in print because we were talking before, and Margie and Carla told me, like, basically they're working together so that, Carla can build on the work that has already been done by Margie and the team before. And I told them I was going to read this quote because this is actually how I've kind of seen this before. I said, too often we want to push our own personality onto a new school community and not embrace any of the things that have been done in the past that are good. This is actually a move that politicians make, I apologize, and why many people are increasingly frustrated with the governments around the world. A new person is elected and wants to undo everything that was done prior because keeping it might be an admission the last person did some things well. So that has been what I've seen before, but this is a totally different. Now I feel guilty for writing that because I'm like, except I should have wrote in brackets, except for Missouri.
For Missouri. It's
Except
not
for Missouri.
education. Yeah.
So why has this been so, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I love that was something that you brought up, because it is something I remember working in Canada in one of the provinces. We had an amazing education plan done by the government, and then actually a new person came into the role, same party, everything, and they just undid everything. And I was like, why would you undo it? Like, even the staff really like what was going on here. So I love that you're saying, like, hey, we want to actually, like, kind of build momentum, not just kind of stop and then start something totally new. So why has that been so important to this transition as you're going through? And I so appreciate that is a focus of the work that the two of you are doing together.
Yeah, well, I'll jump in on there. For me, it was so important. I had a board member who told me a while ago that doing state government work is more like running a relay race than a sprint. You want to get things finished. You need to see things finished on your watch, and it is almost impossible. And if you do the start stop, right now the average tenure of a commissioner is less than 3 years. If you're doing start stop, start stop, start stop, you're not getting anywhere. Our job is to build a foundation, pass the baton, and let people improve upon the work that you had in place. Missouri is a little bit different as well, in that our Constitution fairly much spells out that we have 8 board members who are on 8-year staggered terms, really designed to maintain some of that sustainability. So they too have bought into this strategic plan and this visioning of what we're working to accomplish in Missouri, namely that around early learning, literacy, success-ready students, teacher workforce. They're all committed to that. And so they wanted to make sure that the next commissioner was also committed to those goals and continue to move forward with that work. Do I believe that Carla will change some of the things that I did? I think she should. Do I think she will do better in a lot of the things that I had than what I had done? But do I hope that the foundation is there so that she can take the baton that I'm going to hand her and just go, because time is short and our kids are counting on us.
School districts are complex. You're dealing with all of these different personalities that come into play. And I always say everybody, any educator will tell you, everybody knows that, everybody thinks they know their job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know I was a student, therefore I know what it's like to be a teacher. And so one is you are patient. Two, you're a multitasker in all sorts of ways, because the job of we know this, the job of a teacher in today's modern workforce is incredibly complex.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly complex. And so being able to be that people person, being able to navigate complex challenges that are happening in the classroom, or if you're a district level administrator, dealing with complex bureaucracies. It's real. Those are real things that teachers and educators have to deal with every single day. And I feel like all of those are transferable. I also think, in general, the profession is full of patient, caring, loving people. And the more we can demonstrate that, the better.
So I just really kind of think about, who's the source this is coming from? Is this someone I aspire to be like? And how is that beneficial? So those three quotes really resonated with me, and really kind of like, I use it. It's not like they're not like good quotes. They're quotes that I heard them and something clicked. So just something clicked in me in that day. And so I guess I share this with you all because I didn't want to just share the stories from them, but maybe you have those moments in your life too. And to kind of think about that. So maybe, write it. I'd love to, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this, go over to YouTube, write in the comments, like, what's a moment or a sentence that changed your life? I'd love to hear that from now. But I'll give you one more that's like a bonus one. And it's this one. Sometimes I get really upset about things and I'm really bothered in the moment. I try to kind of, I know that sounds weird, kind of step out of my body, just kind of take a step back. And I ask myself, like, will this matter like 5 years from now? Like, what I'm really bothered by and kind of seems like the end of the world, in 5 years, will this matter? And 99% of the time it won't, right? You'll like even if 5 weeks will bug you, 5 days. Some of the stuff that you get, not you as in George, because I'm looking at myself on the screen here. Some of the things I get really upset about, I've learned that I'm like, yeah, like in 2 days, I won't even care. So if I'm not going to care in 2 days, why do I even care right now? And so I think it just gives me perspective. I'm really trying to embrace that Trevor Moawad idea of neutral thinking. Like, and I'm not saying situations aren't bad or anything like that, but like, okay, so this is probably not going to bug me, but can I figure this out right now? What can I actually do with this moment to make my life better? So that idea of like, will this moment matter 5 years from now? And you can kind of pull it back 5 weeks, 5 days. And if it doesn't, typically it's an easier way to deal with things. So that's kind of something I've really kind of learned over the last couple of years. Anyways, I want to share those three quotes with you. I've been trying to do some more, some of these like solo podcasts. They seem to connect with people in a different way. I love talking to guests, but it's just a good way for me to reflect, kind of talk some things out, share some ideas, and to really kind of push my own learning. One of the things I'm really passionate about is I don't speak at events unless I've either written the idea before or I've talked about it in a podcast, because it helps me kind of articulate and really kind of think deeply about it. I don't want to just say things for the sake of saying things. I really want some thought behind why I'm saying that and why it matters.